Well, it is the big news for the aviation sector, flying high once more, apparently, because Ryanair has announced today that 100% of their pre-pandemic traffic in Cork is going to be restored for summer 2022 with a €200 million investment for the airport. I'm joined by Eddie Wilson, CEO of Ryanair, to discuss the decision and how it will impact on the aviation industry. Morning, Eddie.
Good morning, Anton. How are you?
I'm very good. Huge congratulations to the government and to the airport operator for attracting you back.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the airports except Dublin. So Cork, Kerry, Knock, and Shannon are going to be all back to their full 100% pre-pandemic Ryanair traffic from next summer. We hope that we can close the deal with Dublin as well, because in fairness to the DAA, they have a scheme in, but unfortunately the funding from government runs out in June, and as you well know, airlines have to plan their capacity for the full season. So if that was extended from the current end date of June next year to the end of the summer season, which is October, bank holiday weekend, then we would make the commitment to restore in full our 100% of our traffic back into Dublin, because Dublin at the moment looks like it could be down by up to 35% next summer. So wouldn't it be great that, as the largest airline, we'd have everything back to pre-pandemic levels, give people that boost in terms of tourism, that if you've got a tourism industry or you're a hotelier in Dublin, that the Ryanair traffic is coming back and you can plan, get your staff
It seems slightly surprising, Eddie, given what the group chief executive had been saying over the previous weeks about the relatively negative outlook for tourism and connectivity out of Ireland. Is it starting to look more rosy than you had expected?
Well, Dublin is obviously the largest airport, and that is still looking potentially next summer at 35% less, unless we can get something completed as we have in Cork. But they are smaller airports. Like Cork has got two Ryanair aircraft. Shannon's got two. We don't have any based activity in Knock and in Kerry, but Dublin has up to 30, potentially 30 Ryanair aircraft there. So we're an island nation. If Eamon Ryan is listening, extend the scheme, give certainty to tourism and business so that we can plan for next summer, restore Dublin in full, just like we have the other four airports. And at least we'll have the capacity in place. And, then it's up to us to drive that through fares and promotion to fill the aircraft.
And on the topic of filling the aircraft, what's your expectation in terms of passenger numbers through Cork once you get back up fully running?
Well, if everything went well and you were back to a sort of a normality, it would be in excess of 1 million passengers here. It could be up to 1.1, 1.2. And in the past, we put a third aircraft into Cork during the summer. But like Cork has potential. We've got 240 airports. That's why it's important to be a base, so you can link to those 240 airports in throughout Europe. So there's lots of potential here. So there's potentially, as I say, 1.1, 1.2 million passengers here next year. Looking
at the wider picture across Europe, how is the recovery going, and what's your expectation?
We're at about 80% load factor. That's 80% occupancy. In pre-COVID times, we'd run at about 95%. I was on a flight myself to Bristol there the other night, and it was like pre-pandemic, in terms of load factors. Things are largely back to normal. We're back at 100% throughout Europe of what we were pre-pandemic. And what we're trying to do, we're in a difficult financial situation as well. We lost almost €1 billion this year. So understandably, we're looking for airports that, particularly back in the startup phase, and don't forget, we didn't let any of our people go. People were on less money. We kept our aircraft current so that when things looked like they were turning around, that we'd be able to come back. That's what's happening here.
And sorry, Eddie, just to get those numbers right, you have 100% of the aircraft flying that you would have had during the pandemic, and those aircraft are carrying 80% passenger loads rather than 95%. Okay.
Yeah, Anton, pre-pandemic. Yeah, so it's not like last year, they're not funny numbers. It's pre-pandemic. So, you're going into the plan that we have for summer 22 will be 100% fully restored. And for the winter as well, it'll be fully restored.
And does the return of transatlantic make any difference to you? As in, does it drop passengers coming across the Atlantic that then get on Ryanair aircraft?
Yeah, not so much out of Ireland. But you'd be surprised at the amount of Americans that use Ryanair in particular, because low fares in Europe are substantially lower than what they are in the United States. So the idea for Americans to land in Rome and then be able to fly up to Venice on an internal flight with Ryanair and then go from there to Barcelona, if they plan it well enough in advance, they're flying around for $20 in their mind. So it's important as well. I mean, like pre-pandemic as well, you have a growing amount of Chinese and Asian tourists that now see using low fares airlines such as Ryanair they don't just go on the grand tour to France or Italy anymore. They move around.
I remember talking to you previously, and one of the things that you had a concern about was the public health interventions at airports and what would happen in terms of the COVID passports and all of the rest of it, and the delays that might have in processing passengers through the airports. Has that come to fruition, or is it running relatively well from your perspective?
Like, in fairness to the EU Commission, and I mean, I remember I was sort of a lone voice in the wind like 18 months ago talking about, I seem to be the only person who knew about the European Centre of Disease Control, which is also run by the European Commission. But in fairness to the Commission, they did roll out the COVID passport. It's accepted everywhere. You go into a restaurant in Italy now and you show the same one as you show in Temple Bar in Ireland. It works fantastically well, and it is straightforward for people to see. And also, as vaccination levels have gone up, you will find that it's much easier to move through airports. Everybody's got the documentation. And, it wasn't going to be, it's not the big, we thought initially there was going to be a different visa or a different presentation for every country, but the one size fits all has really facilitated air travel.
And in this relatively positive context, Eddie, where the airports are running relatively simply, you have 100% of the planes in the sky and they're nearly full. Can you explain then why Michael O'Leary has the concern or the expectation that prices are going to go up into 2022?
Because, well, they'll probably go up this Christmas as well. I mean, and that's why you'd encourage people to book early. I mean, it's very simple. There's just less seats in Europe, and that's for a number of reasons. Like the larger airlines that are depending on state aid have had to cut back, and they've cut back on short haul. You've got airlines like EasyJet that have gone smaller, Norwegian that are a fraction of the size that they were. So the number of seats has gone down, and even I remember my economics class, if there's less of something, the price goes up, and I think hoteliers and the tour operators have sort of held out as well on pricing in the anticipation that there's going to be pent up demand, but there's going to be less seats available. People are not going to be holidaying in Southeast Asia or Vietnam or Thailand. Those countries are not open. Even in the United States, if you want to plan, a trip to Florida, there's a lot of uncertainty on how that would work out for a family. But I think people are sticking to Europe for the foreseeable future, and that's going to be good news for us.